What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Dave Network, where I share with you my journey to success and the lessons that I'm learning along the way. For today's video, the topic is going to be why high-earning Black millennials often struggle to build wealth. Making money, what is considered good money, and still not feeling like you're financially independent or that you're any closer to financial freedom. But before we get into the specifics, what do I mean when I say high earning? Six figures. Earning six figures is a big milestone for a lot of, especially young people. Number two, why am I picking on Black millennials? What's so special about them, right? Well, first of all, I am a Black millennial, and Black millennials are the most important influence, or the biggest influence, on where we go as a community in the next 10 to 20 years. And if this group is the most important group to determine where we go as a community, then the rich class within that group is even more important because they have the most options out of the group. There was a 2021 report that said that 60% of millennials earning six figures are living paycheck to paycheck. And that report happens to be absolutely true. A lot of young people who are making what would be considered good money in America are still really struggling out here. And it's not just inflation, right? I'm not gonna point out big macro problems that you can't fix or that you can't do anything about. What I'm talking about are things that are actually within your control. I found 5 specific things that I call the top 5 killers of wealth when it comes to high earning Black millennials. Wealth killer number 5, dating. So now, don't get me wrong, dating is important because it's probably the best and easiest way that you can find a lifelong partner, right? Which ultimately is a plus or a positive for your financial stability. But how much is dating really costing you? A lot of these types of millennials that I'm talking about live in very expensive cities. Did you know that 22% of millennials are going into debt just to date? And this is not something that's just for men. I understand that a lot of times guys are the ones paying for the dates, but the women are spending a lot of money leading up to the date. This is not a gender issue as much as it is just a kind of generational and perspective issue when it comes to modern dating. So I'm gonna give you an example. Has nothing to do with dating. Just, I was in DC last year, walked into this hole in the wall place, and spent $24 on Douce and cranberry. $24 for a single shot of Douce and cranberry. I had PTSD for like 2 weeks straight. Every time I saw that ocean spray bottle of cranberry. Wealth killer number 4, dependence. And let's be clear, I'm not talking about your kids. I'm talking about your parents. I'm talking about your siblings, your friends, your play cousins, your aunties and uncles. These dependents that you can't claim on your taxes. Dragging people with you trying to establish yourself financially is a bad idea, and it's probably gonna delay your financial success. Wealth killer number 3, debt. Did you know that Black graduates are on average owing $25,000 more than their white counterparts? We're borrowing more money and owing more money. I understand a lot of you had to make the investment, the initial investment, in order to even be competitive in the job market, in order to have a chance to be where you are today. I happen to be very fortunate that I didn't go the traditional route of borrowing money. Between having a job while I was in college and that good old susu for my Caribbeans and Africans out there, I didn't have to borrow money from a bank. That helped me out a lot because between that and working, I never took out a loan. I graduated debt free. I want you to put in the comment just your situation when it comes to debt. You don't have to give us everything, but just maybe, is this something that's actually affecting your ability to be stable? Wealth killer number 2, no savings. Black people are 5 times less likely to have an inheritance than white people. We don't have a disposition to pass on wealth, and because we don't think it's important, a lot of our young people going to start their lives not having anything. Did you know that 17% of Black households don't have bank accounts? It goes to how we think as a community. My investment in you was giving you life. No, other people who took care of you and raised you should have been part of how you got started when it comes to savings. Let's say you have a 1-year-old child right now and you decide to start putting aside $100 a month for the next 17 years until they're 18. They're gonna have more than $20,000 in the bank to start life with. Wealth killer number one, rent. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Rent is the biggest thing killing your ability to build wealth. So let's look at some 2021 data in some of the top metropolitan areas where young, rich Black millennials live. Okay, and I want to start off with Atlanta because that's where I live at now. Average rent for a one-bedroom apartment went up 39% in 2021. Let's look at New York. Median rent went up 15% to $4,176 a month. That's insane. What about the DMV, DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia? Median rent went up 6.7% to $2,700. Rent has become unaffordable for a lot of people. It is recommended that your lodging should cost you about 30% of your income. Do you think that's what rent is costing you right now? Just out of curiosity, you don't gotta tell me what you make. Just drop in a comment what percent of your monthly income rent is. So let me give you some tips on what you should do to get these things under control. These 5 things. Starting with dating. Look over the past month or whatever month you think you spent or overspent on dating and look how much you spent. Whatever that figure is, cut it in half. Second suggestion is to get creative. Try to be more creative with how you date so that you still get the value and the experience at a cheaper cost. My last suggestion on dating is to talk to your potential mate. See where their mind is at financially. Find ways to have these conversations before it starts costing you money. So now, dependence. That one is super simple. Just say no. Just learn to say no. That's it. Alright, let me move on. Let's talk about debt. I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. So actually, I'm not even going to touch the whole student loans because that's really not my lane. But the only form of debt I feel comfortable talking about is credit card debt. Stop using credit cards. It's that simple as that. Stop using credit cards. You should not be using credit cards for daily expenses. Alright? Technically speaking, the only reason to use credit cards is to earn the reward points and to make investments. You should only purchase things that earn money with credit cards. Y'all using credit cards for things that's supposed to, for sandwiches and gas or whatever, and you think, nah, that's not a good strategy. Listen, unless you really disciplined and are able to pay off the card on an almost daily basis, you should not be using credit cards for daily expenses. Another suggestion for people with debt is borrow from your 401k and pay off the debt. Borrow against your 401k today and let it help you now. The interest on the 401k is probably better than the interest on your credit cards. So no savings. What do I suggest you do? You gotta save as an emergency fund at least 3 to 6 months worth of your monthly expenses. Alright, so find out what you spend a month to live the kind of life you living. Save at least 3 times that amount. If it'll be even better if you can go to 6 times. But at that point, any penny additional, you're supposed to be investing. Now let's get into what I suggest you do about rent. If you're paying too much in rent, the first thing I want you to do is consider moving back in with your parents. Moving back in with your parents is probably the easiest way to get back on track because these is people that care about you anyway. To me, if you're gonna pay somebody to live somewhere that's not your dream home, then it might as well be your parents. Don't move back home for free. Make it seem like this is something you really need to do now in order to put yourself up in the best financial position for the future. By staying with your parents for the next 12 months, some of y'all might come out with 40 bands more in the bank. My next suggestion, if you live somewhere that's too expensive, is to get a roommate. Don't get comfortable living with a roommate though, because that's obviously things change on either side. It could change tomorrow. If one person's situation changes, it changes the other person's situation automatically. My next suggestion is to move. Okay, move a little bit further out to where you are now or move to a different city. But my rule of thumb for moving, you should never ever move if you're broke. Moving is a luxury for people with assets and resources who just want to change scenery for whatever reason. You should not move anywhere if you're broke. You're just gonna go be broke somewhere else. Let me wrap this up by saying this. The biggest hurdle in your way was to figure out how to make money. You did that. Now comes the next part, is how to save it and how to grow it.